show that has absolutely no name.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. So I'm here with Craig Ferreira. Craig, welcome. You know what? Actually, I'll tell you why I wanted to start this thing. Actually, I wanted to have coffee in different coffee shops, and then like link up on Google and tell people like how the coffee was, and just go around many coffee shops all around the country or in the region first, and then go around the country and talk to very interesting business people and talk about what I love the most, which is business. So welcome, Craig Ferreira, Creative Frequency. You're the first one of this show that has no name.
Coffee shop entrepreneurs.
Liking that could be a working title. So welcome. I mean, like, Craig, you're a teacher. You are thought leader in many ways. You teach something very interesting, and you're also in a market that is fairly niched in South Africa, especially. There's only a couple of real players. Just tell me about your journey, and like, firstly, why do you do what you do?
Awesome. Well, I guess obvious starting point is obviously, as mentioned, my name is Craig, and I run a company called the Creative Frequency.
Uh-huh.
So what we pretty much train is high-level creative function, and what high-level creative function is anything in your life, like whether it's your business, which we're looking at here, your finances, your health, your relationships, your hobbies, whatever area it is in your life, whatever it is that you're trying to create in your life, the results that you have in all these areas are directly representative to your ability to create in all of these arenas. So I guess how does it start? And my starting point, what it's going to come down to is, I grew up in what's pretty much the common household in the modern day, in the modern world. There's two parents that are in the house. There's no love in the house. It's a dying relationship. Mom was just sticking around with dad because she thought it was going to do better for us kids. And the relationship was dead for 15, 20 years. Was dead for about 15, 20 years, which my mother just stuck around for my best interest. And while I was going through my education and getting schooled, and that was the whole point of it. Until I got my education, which I don't even know why I went into that field, because Mom said I was good at it. It's like, yeah, I was good at it. I enjoyed it, but it never like really sparked anything off in me. But backtrack a little bit more to the upbringing. My whole life, I looked for a place of belonging. For a place where I had some purpose, I had some meaning, and most importantly, I can contribute something to. And at home, I never had that. And where I did get that was in the early days, was on the street. In my drug, it was my first career. My first entrepreneurship venture was in the drug world. And the reason I say it was my first entrepreneurship venture was because at that time, I used to get 100 Rand pocket money. And how far does 100 Rand go? And I still remember those days I could get 1 Miller's, 1 box of cigarettes, and I think one ecstasy tablet. Sure. That wasn't very much to go out with, that wasn't going to last me a whole night. So what I used to do is get all the friends together, and I would go organize it, and I would talk to the dealers, and blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I read a lot of lives like that, and, I just took it upon myself when I did stop that, when I did start hunting for that something more, when I did stop using the drugs, so to speak, and when I stopped using that, I just started to look for meaning and how can I contribute to life rather than take away from life, which was a big part of everything that I used to do. And I, for the life of me, I could just never figure out what it is that I actually wanted to do with my life. And everybody goes, go for what you love, this big fluffy thing. And what is that? For my whole life, I was always curious about what is it that I want. And what I generally got was go with what my parents did. So in school, firstly, it was accounting. My mom always tried to push me to accounting because accounting's so easy, but it was easy for her. And from my side, it wasn't accounting. Then it was go to my dad's side. And what was my dad's side? My dad was in the manufacturing industry with plastic and that kind of stuff. And that's where my brother ventured off. And then I started looking into that, and none of that ever gelled for me. But one day I just realized, what is it that I actually do love? And that was self-development, so to speak. And because I've been studying it from 15 and after a 10-year, 11-year drug journey, that was the thing that actually got me out of the drugs, was the self-development. I applied everything that I learned, and I still remember having the question, the all famous question was, for me, my epiphany point was, I can either be a hobo on the streets and begging for money for drugs, or I can help people. And I never ever knew what that meant at the time, but that's where I am today.
Awesome. So I mean, like, okay, so there was a lot of things in that, and I mean, like, so when you're trying to like actually find your way, like trying to find your way and find like what you're really good at or what you really would love to do, because I mean, I think a lot of people that I've been speaking to as well, they're very confused even in later stages of their lives in terms of what I would really like to do. I mean, like I've had a conversation with people where they're like, you know what, I just don't even know what I'm good at. I mean, how does one actually navigate that? Because I mean, I've played with, I've not played. I mean, I've worked with your content, and it's really driven me, especially at this stage of my life, in a very different way. And I've understood it in a different way in terms of things that I love to do, and because I'm not afraid to really try things out. But what about like for those people that struggle to just know what do I know what I'm good at? How do I even find what I love to do?
100%. I guess fundamentally where we start this, like where I would like to start this is to understand and give you a little bit of basis of you as a person and you as a person, me as a person, and as our egos and how our egos drive us, and how education has taught us to be driven. And the educational model, really what it's taught us is that our power lies outside of us. The things that we would like to do, if we would like to start something new, we have to find it in a book, and after we find it in a book, then we need to go replicate that. We need to swallow that and then be able to regurgitate it. And the better you can do that, the better, more successful you can be. So what's inevitably happened is we've handed our power over to something bigger than us that we don't even know what it is. You know, this all holy grail thing, this silver bullet, this thing that's out there. That's what education's taught us. So what inevitably has happened is that the majority of us as people, we're in a safety, security, and survival mode. So whenever we're making decisions and we're looking for this all elusive thing that we would love, or this thing that we're good at, and our purpose, or whatever you want to look at it, when we're looking for it, it's the place that we're actually being orientated from is our safety, security, and survival. And a lot of people base a business model on a safety, security, and survival. I'm going to go into this because it's safe. You know, I can't venture here because it's not safe. I need to do this because it's going to be, there's a lot of survival here. And so because we're in that space, we're already on the back foot. Because when, like, I was actually just having, you know, we've got a group of, a WhatsApp group of all our participants and our geniuses. And there was a question there that education without your heart is not education at all. And I just recently responded to, actually just before we stepped into here, and you know, like following your heart sounds very woo-woo, you know, especially like with a lot of the stuff that's out there, and it sounds very fluffy and very woo-woo. But in all honesty, it's not. But the thing is, why it sounds so woo-woo and why it's so difficult to find your purpose is because we're starting off on the back foot already by being in a safety, security, and survival. Because we're in a very rational place. You know, we need to find what's going to work and how it can work and that kind of stuff. But on the other side of the coin, your heart, so to speak, and your purpose is very irrational. And, you know, if you look at that, go to any of the great entrepreneurs, you know, Nelson Mandela, you know, not that he was an entrepreneur, but he was a leader in his own right. And as entrepreneurs, we are leaders. You know, it was very irrational for him to think that he can be a president and a leader in democracy and great democracy coming from prison.
And united divided country.
And united divided country, especially the space we're coming from. If we look at Steve Jobs, it was very irrational for him, the things that he was doing. You know, he was doing very irrational things. To take a Walkman and a cell phone and put them together and create an iPod, you know, there was never created before. It's very irrational. And a lot of people are looking for the safe way to follow other people. But, you know, you can't really follow that if you're if you're already on the back foot of safety, security, and survival. So bringing it back to the question, to your purpose, I guess the best way I can answer that is, what are you curious about? What sparks you off? What lights that spark and the fire in you? Whether it's work-related or not work-related. And I've met a lot of people through our training, I'm sure you have too, that go, I do what I love. But they come in and do our training and they realize it's actually just a place of safety. It's what they like. It's not what they truly like. It's what they think they need to do in order to get where they want to go. You know? So it's really what's come down to what sparks that fire in, what makes you curious, when you're doing it, it lights you up.
And I love the way you spoke about that, because when I think about actually applying a lot of the stuff that you teach, and I think having you on the first episode actually sets a good tone for this going forward, because literally, I even this whole thing, like setting up a podcast and planning, like this is how it's gonna go. This is exactly how each thing is gonna go. But that was not in the plan at all. And I'm pretty sure everyone can even notice. But I mean, like the whole thing is like it's like about just taking that step and doing actually something that you love to do, and then the path sort of opens itself up as you take that one step, as you take the next step. And because there is I'm not seeing one thought leader that actually worked it out from the beginning. Like you're talking about Nelson Mandela, I'm pretty sure he didn't think that he was going to be in jail before he helped the country become free. You know, I mean, he didn't think that all those steps were going to play in between. That he had to learn humility and love for every human being. I'm pretty sure that was part of his evolution as he grew as a human being, taking those steps towards that vision that he had. And as you're talking about this finding your purpose, in my mind, it lights up the thing, like just if you just take one step, even if it's in that space of things that you don't know. I mean, someone would have come to your course wanting to understand their purpose more, but thinking this is what I love, and then finding out, oh, really, actually, this is the way I love. But if they didn't take that step, they wouldn't have gotten there in the first place. So I love that, and like totally. So okay, so let's talk a little bit about business. So you now, I mean, as a young speaker in this, I actually met someone the other day. They're like, I know this guy. Yeah. He's quite young dude. He's speaking now. Like, yeah, okay, cool. So and it's interesting because that person himself is like sort of out of the personal development speaking world as such, in the learning world. So how are you finding it, navigating it in South Africa? I mean, there's a lot of advertising that you guys have to do. How are you finding it, especially the market?
So I guess ultimately, it's the only constant in the world right now, and it's still going to be going that way, is change.
Sure.
And the only thing that you can go with that constant, you can hold for surety, is that everything's going to change exponentially.
Sure.
So I guess for what I train in, which is the high level creative function, it's to spark that genius and that ingenious, find your ingenious solutions, and that's the way that I'm teaching people to navigate.
Yeah.
And that's the way I navigate, and that's the way you navigate in this podcast right now. But I guess ultimately everything comes down to, there's a premise that we use in our training, and that premise is that your focus creates your reality. So, at the end of the day, I'm after a vision. I'm focused on that vision. And that's the thing that actually drives everything that I do. So in terms of how am I finding the market, it's challenging. Obviously, it's challenging.
Yeah.
Any business is challenging. Even if you've got a corporate job, it's challenging to be in that space. It's just, what challenges do you want to put yourself under? And what challenges do you want to navigate yourself through? So at the end of the day, like, I've been in the market for about 4 years now, 4 or 5 years, and and I've been full time into the market now, just under 2 years, and through that time, I've been able to thrive through all of it. Personally, to thrive, going from all the transitions I've gone through and being able to power myself. So how am I finding it? I'm actually thoroughly enjoying the process. I enjoy being in the marketplace, because for me personally, I love to learn, and I love to grow, and I love the challenge, so to speak. So in the market space, it's everything is a continuous learning. So my previous job, I was in corporate space, I was in engineering, and the thing that used to eat me alive there is I'm always up for the challenge. I'm someone who's very competitive, so to speak, and I want to learn things. And what was happening is, whenever I'd get a job, within a year of being at that job, it would become boring because it would become monotonous. And the reason it would become monotonous is because I would learn the model, I'd wax the model, and then I'd start dying again inside, and I'd crumble and have to move on. So in terms of the market space now, how I'm finding it is that I'm always having to learn. You come from the social media background, and we've had quite a few extensive conversations around Facebook marketing and social media marketing, and you've even helped me with my last page and that kind of stuff. So I love the fact that nothing's ever constant. I love the fact that I'm always having to grow and I'm always having to try something new and develop myself as a person, number one. And number two, having to develop my business, and be volatile in that space to grow with it.
I love the fact that you brought up. I'm sorry, like I even forgot the fact that you transitioned. So you transitioned from working in the corporate space, and then you took a big step out of that. You've been in the market 5 years, but you started from being working for someone else, working in a job. And I think this is another big question that a lot of people have. How am I supposed to get over there with this, like, where I'm running my own business and doing my own thing, to like from where I'm at right now? Perhaps because most people who are in a job, I'm not saying that that's what was the case with you, but with most people that are in a job, they tend to have high debt. So like they tend to have high debt, and then they obviously have the kids and the family, and that's kind of constricting them. And then it's like, but how am I supposed to do what I love? I think I was listening to the radio the other day as well. The people were just like, I'm waiting. I can't wait to go on a weekend because then I can get away from these people that I hate working with, and because my boss sucks, and just life sucks, and at least I'm gonna get paid this week, so I don't have to think about it. And I was just like, wow, what a dead life. But I'm just like thinking that transition, because many people want to make that transition, and especially, and I know it comes to the heart of what you teach in terms of going for what you love. You took 2 years, you say, to get out of corporate and move yourself into a space where you could actually work for yourself?
I think the whole transition probably took about 4 to 5 years in the transition, like of going from coaching and running a job, starting my coaching practice,
okay,
and then moving from there. The training practice, it was about 2.5 years, 3 years that I was in corporate, and then I've been in about just under 2 years now in the market space.
Wow.
So I guess ultimately
a 7-year type of period, right?
So it was a whole process, and the beauty in that is, and something that we training is that when you, like, once again, this doesn't sound very woo, but because you've done the training, there's a lot more substance to this. But when you follow your heart, and when you follow your, what Joseph Campbell used to call your bliss, when you follow your bliss and you follow your genius, the funny thing is that you're actually supported every step of the way. So I know, like, anybody who's listened to this, has ever gone to create something or try to create something, it's like you've got this project and you can't figure it out, and all of a sudden, like, you hit this your true potential, and it's almost like things start happening serendipitous. Like you just start meeting the right people at the right place, and everything just starts to fall into your place. And like that's when we're in that peak potential space.
Yeah.
And that's when you're really operating from the purpose and from your heart. But then something happens. There's this little switch that switches out, and it kicks you back into where the world's against you. And people even go, their life's testing me. Like, how's your business going? Geez, now I'm being tested, eh? But and I'm sure we all know somebody who's like probably the biggest BSer, bullshitter that you've ever met, and they just talk, but things just happen for them. They just get these businesses, and they just get these job after job, and like we look at them and go, how are they doing this? I work so hard, and they just like full of nonsense, and yet they just keep aspiring, and what's going on here? So to bring this whole thing back now is how did I do that, and what was that whole process? Is if I go back to that whole educational model and what the educational system has taught us. If we go back to education, what has it been taught? The educational system was to teach us the second industrial revolution, is how to become a machine, a cog in a machine in the corporate world. So the old model, the old paradigm of living was that the more the more you learn, the more accolades you have, the more certificates you have, the better you can become at something, the more monotonous you can become at something, and the better you can do it, the quicker you can do that, the higher you get paid. But as time is evolving, what we're noticing is people that are being outside of that box completely are people that are getting paid the most. There's people that are traveling the world with a YouTube channel, going to taste in all different countries. They go to just a food vendor and they taste food, and they do a review on that food, and they got like over 1 million people strong following, and that's their career.
I coach kids part time, and like I ask them regularly, like, what do you want to do with their life? Do you know that like 80% of them are like, I want to be a YouTuber?
Exactly. Okay, so the thing is that the world is changing. It's changing, and the only way that you can really adapt with it is, firstly, we need to get out of the old paradigm of the educational system where we need to learn something, and once we've learned it, then we can do it. Because the definition of creativity, and I train high-level creative functions, but the definition of creativity and where your genius comes from is connecting 2 points that have never been connected before. And you're not going to figure that out in the book, because a book's going to teach, and the educational model has taught us a very succinct, straight line, and this is how it works. But if it really works, how come we don't have 100 billion millionaires if it really works? Because that model does work, it's obsolete. And the whole thing is, like, I look at people all the time, and I actually coached a client last night even. He wants to go from his corporate job and get into hiking and all that kind of stuff, and being a wildlife trainer and all this kind of stuff. And he's so stuck in the paradigm of looking for the perfect route. So what have we taught in most self-development is go and find a business plan, get a business plan, and when you've got a solid business plan, now you can take that and now you can run a business from this business plan. But my question is, if we only know what we know, and we only know corporate world, which is this much information, and that's all I know, and the business that I want to create is out here, how can I know how to create a business plan that's going to get me from here to here? There's a gap in between there. And our knowledge and our lack of knowledge cannot make that transition. But you see, our genius can cross that line. Our genius can assist us and support us in connecting the dots and putting us in a new orientation where we're in a creative and an imaginative and intuitive state rather than a safety, security, and survival state. When you're operating in that space, that's where things start to work for you rather than things going against you.
And it's very elusive. I mean, like, trying to move, because I even felt it, as you said, like, in this, trying to move from, when you're trying to move from here to here, and then the only thing that's going to get you there is your creativity. It's like, it's very elusive between that and being in that safety survival space. But you can notice it just by flow, by how things quickly and easily kind of sort of sit with the path that's sort of laid, and then the other one, which can be so complicated, so convoluted, so difficult, you know, it's actually like self-imposed, like you say. It's like the safety and survival, like, I need to know what is the next step before I take it. Whereas when you're taking this step and you're moving, just all of a sudden, a simple example is just how things happen today. Like, I had a very specific plan for my day. I had a very good outline for my day. But a good portion of it, I had absolutely no idea what was going to happen. But it just kind of filled itself up. And it filled itself up so much to the point where you said, oh, what, do you take a drug deal? I was like, because I ended up selling some stuff on the side, and I actually sold 2 things on the way to, and I would have never planned that. And I was laughing at myself, hey, like, today you ended up, like, I started the day 300 Rand less, and I ended the day 800 Rand in profit. And I was like, that is freaking awesome. I wouldn't have planned that. And it was just because of I had a very clear intention to have a freaking awesome day. So, and I'm just saying, like, in terms of what you're saying, it seems elusive for someone that is like, oh, this is like a whole lot of woo and fluff and stuff. But actually, it's really awesome when you actually put it into application. Okay, so now we're at a stage, especially talking about your life when you moved. So there was a 7-year transition. So it was obviously not an easy one, because you're still managing yourself, you're managing the people around you. You're talking about moving maybe in between jobs, just to keep staying creative, because you're that creative type of person. You're obviously getting to know yourself. And now moving into that transition into business now. And there you have to now apply, because in one place you are kind of in this one space where you're being creative, and then now moving into business, that is a whole new level of creativity where there's management, there's implementation, there is social marketing. I mean, social media is like a new thing on top of that. It's its own thing now compared to marketing as such, you know? So like, then how like putting all these things together, and especially in line with what you're saying in terms of being creative, attracting maybe the people, and you actually mentioned it in your course where before you thought you needed to have maybe the people in your community, that is, you needed to be the one driving the community, and now there's others in the community driving the community. Just can you speak to that? Just like your experience about that, building the business, having to engage in so many things. Because I found, especially in the personal development space, one of the things that I noticed and studied a little bit was that most healers, most people in that space, especially in South Africa, struggle. And they struggle because they have a skill. Now they go from skill to into business. Now in business, there's many functions that I have to pay attention to. And people have the simple thing like, I provide the service of helping you. Maybe I do massage, massage therapist. And then after that, I charge you 300 Rand for that. But the 300 Rand, there's cost that is associated to that, and there's profit. So just not understanding that is already putting me under, because what I do with the 300 Rand is I eat it, and then I have to start again. So I mean, like, those are like a simple business function that people don't pay attention to. But how are you like going through this whole thing? Because obviously you're learning all of those stuff, and then you still got to add more functions to growing a business that most corporate, where they have so many other people that are all these different departments that are handling it. How are you going through this?
So I guess ultimately, dude, what it's going to come down to is I'm sure there's some people sitting here going, I'm not creative. You know, and
oh, love that.
So like, for example, I started this off and I said, what I train is high-level creative function. And what a high-level creative function is, any area of your life, whether it's your business, your finances, your health, your wealth, your relationships, whatever area it is of your life, the results you have in those areas is a direct representation of your ability to create in that arena.
Right.
Okay? Because it's all results. Whether you're getting 300 Rand and you're blowing it all, that's a result that you're creating, and you're creating something that you're spending it on. Okay? Yeah. Now, if you had flu, would you say your life is over? Okay, so it's the same thing here. Just because you've got a certain level of creativity in different areas, it doesn't mean that you're doomed to results in that space, in that way for the rest of your life. So with regards to everything that I train is obviously it all comes down to our focus and what are we focusing on? What zone are we playing in? Because there's two very different zones. One zone where we're in the safety, security, survival, and because we're in that zone, we're on the tracks of that. And everything we do, every action we take is motivated by safety, security, and survival. And now what do we start to perpetuate? What do we start to create more of? What kind of results do we start bringing more of in our life?
100%.
Is more results to prove why I need to stay in safety, security, and survival.
Exactly.
But then on the other side of the coin, where you're playing, when you're playing your biggest game, when you're playing your biggest game and you're striving for a vision and you're creating up towards a vision, it's the things aren't so elusive anymore because you become very resourceful. So I've obviously, like as you mentioned, it's taken me a bit of a transition. Yes, there's been struggles. Yes, there's been challenges. Yes, there's been times where I want to quit and I'm questioning myself, what the hell am I doing? And all that kind of stuff. But
if it wasn't, it wouldn't be business, right?
Exactly.
It wouldn't be really worthwhile.
But what I've come to notice is those are the times where I learn the most. And the thing is, with us as humans, one other premise that we use in our training is tension seeks resolution. So I'm more than sure that anybody who's watching this, and 95% of the people watching this, everybody wants to stay away from tension. And this is what we've been taught through society. This is what we've been taught through education, is stay away from tension.
Yeah.
Okay. Some people raise their hands and say, I like tension, but generally they like to cause tension, but they don't like to be in the tension. Okay. So the thing is, we try to stay away from that tension to keep ourselves safe. But in order to create tension, it's actually your biggest gift, it's your biggest ally, because you need tension to create. Think about it. When do people say they create the best results? When they're under pressure, for example, because there's tension there, and that tension seeks to resolve, and that tension creates creativity. The problem is, what's happening is we're resolving the tension in favor of a dysfunction, in favor of the safety, security, survival, instead of resolving it in favor of what we're moving towards and the vision and the end result. And us as humans, we try to stay away from the conflict of life. We try to look for the safest and the most secure route in order to get there so we can avoid the conflict. Where what we're actually seeking is through that conflict, because that's where we actually learn out the most about ourselves. That's where we find our shortcomings. That's where we find out what's not working, what is working. So for example, in my marketing, like you're saying, social media, my marketing and stuff, I remember the one event I had like 15,000 Rand, like you're saying, like hand to mouth, because I was living hand to mouth. I had to in the transition.
Right.
And I remember I think I had like 15 or 20,000 Rand, and I was to run an event, and I go and I run this event, and one of my competitors was running an event that same Saturday that I was running, and I went to blue. I think I blew the whole 20 grand. I think it was like 12 grand. It was a little bit more, it was like 25. It was 10 grand on my venue, and I put 15 grand into my marketing. 3 people showed up to this event. But what I did is, in the moment, I had a choice. I could have just given up and said no and given up on the whole thing, or I could have gone and run it as if I had 100 people in the room. And I went and I ran it like I had 100 people, and that moment actually set the foundation for my introductory talk, which is the introductory sales training into my advanced trainings. And what inevitably happened, that was the solid foundation moving forward, where I started getting a 25 to a 35% upsell in my introductory talk, whereas the industry norm there is about between 5 and 10%.
Correct.
You know, but it was in that moment and in that despair and in that tension that I had a choice, that I could give up on where I'm moving towards, or I could go towards what I was moving towards.
100%.
And because I chose moving towards, I actually fundamentally changed altered the path of my destiny and everything else because of a choice. And the same thing, every time I've lost money, like I'd spend 15 grand or whatever, get 50 people into a room, and I get 50 people into a room, and they just not my clients, or not my clientele. I'm a very specific kind of person. You see me in my training, I'm very me, I'm very overt, I swear every now and then, like, you know, I'm me.
You've done a very good job, by the way.
Yeah. I'm very much me in that space, you know,
Yeah.
and I want to have fun. Like, yes, it's a very serious thing, it's a laugh, but I want to make it fun, because life should be fun.
Yeah.
And what I was noticing is I started getting, because I was after money, you know, like money and getting out of your job and all this kind of stuff, and you get these very like I don't know how to explain, like low vibration people, like very serious people that aren't my kind of people. And I went and wasted another 15 grand there, and this was another event, by the way, where I wasted another 15 grand, and that's a huge slap in my face, you know. But then I go back and I revert to it. Yes, I get very hard on myself, but then I implement my training, and I come back to what can I learn from this. And what I've learned is, okay, this is actually the clientele that I wanted. But I would have never learned that unless I had that challenge, unless I had that problem, unless I had that failure, so to speak. I would have never learned I didn't want these people. And then what happened is my marketing changed fundamentally, and I stopped talking about money, and I started talking about other things, you know, like your purpose and fulfillment and meaning and that kind of stuff. And I started to attract a totally different caliber of people to my training, you know, just through my message. But I would have never learned that unless I burned myself. In the same way,
100%.
a child will never learn that it's really hot before they've touched that thing. And us as entrepreneurs and people that are startups and people that are even in training, because I've seen even people with business that are over 10 years, that's through the economic crisis, they implode. You know, but you get other people in the economic crisis that they are becoming multi-billionaires. So what's going on here? What's different here is we see one person playing in the high-level creative space, and the other person is playing in the safety, security, and survival space. And it's really just learning where are we orientating ourselves. What space am I playing for? Because we've been taught to move away from what we don't want rather than to move towards what we do want.
And I think that is the awesome way to actually to close this off, because I mean, are you taking action in favor of what you really, really, really want, or are you taking action in favor of what you're scared of and where you're just trying to run away from? Because I think that leaving that message is a key element to real success. And one of the biggest things that you've taught me that actually, because I mean, also it just depends on where you're at. Because it's kind of like twice that I've been through your seminars, and then the first time I was like, I understand it, yeah, okay, cool, and then applied it, and it worked, and then eventually go back to the safety, security, and survival. But then, like on the second time round, like thinking, okay, no, this time, and for some reason, I think it came in a different way, because there's a bit of time and experience. So now, like when I'm taking it in, I'm like, whoa, actually, I see how I went back. So now I can actually apply this differently. So if it wasn't for those mistakes, in inverted commas, I wouldn't be able to take on this information and apply it in this whole different fashion. So if we had to just, I mean, like if someone wanted to just apply this type of stuff now, what would you say they can just take tomorrow and already submit, or this next week, and apply and see what are the results?
Okay, so I guess
No quick bullets, of course.
To stay in theme of where we are in this conversation, and I think it's super relevant that you even asked the question, is my question is to you, is are you trying to fix yourself and solve the problems of your life, which is what we're all trying to do, and there, by fixing yourself and solving a problem in your business, in your finances, and trying to fix that problem, do you know that very strangely, when you set out to solve a problem, you fall back into the same neurological pathway that created the problem in the first place.
100%.
So what I'm going to put out to you is, are you trying to solve and fix problems and fix a structure that's giving way and something that's not working? Or are you going to let that go and create something that's supportive and create something that's what you would love to create, something that an actual end result that you're moving towards for the pure joy of moving towards it, rather than going to move away, creating something to move away from a problem.
100%. So, I love that. So again, it's like instead of us trying to focus on trying to fix something, rather just focus on what you want. Because then again, you're either moving away from what you don't want, or you're trying to move toward what you do want. And there's a very, very big difference between the two. So that is a great one.
So it's either problem solving or you're creating, and they're two very different things.
100%. Awesome, Craig. Thank you. I love this. I think in terms of your industry, it's so awesome because I think everybody that's like out there trying to help people think differently, especially in this time, is so necessary. And I feel like everybody's feeling it. Everybody's feeling the need to move because the world is changing, technology is changing us. Money itself, the economy around the world is changing, and we're all feeling it. And because of that, we need to think differently. So hats off to guys like you that are out there helping us change our mind, helping us change the way we do things. So thank you very much for joining me on this. I think this is definitely calling for another conversation at a whole other time. It's really inspired me quite a bit. And thank you very much for joining me, man.
My pleasure, brother.
See you.